What's up, everyone? Sunny here, along with all my friends from the Be Kind crew. I want to welcome you to Connect2STEM TV, organized by the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Phoenix, in partnership with Cox Communications and the Arizona SciTech Festival. That's right, you are about to enter the wonderful world of STEM, where you can learn, discover, and have fun. So let's go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connect2STEM. Now we're going to have the opportunity to go inside and tour the Palo Verde Generating Station with our guides today, Monty and Ryan. Take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. So first off, thank you. This is a great opportunity for us. We love showcasing what it is we do at Palo Verde and all of those great things that we have to provide. And Palo Verde is actually one of the largest, is the largest clean air producer in the nation, believe it or not. And what it is we create is about enough power for 4 million homes in the desert Southwest. And the way we do it is by creating nuclear energy, which is carbon free. It's a pretty cool video that we're about to show. Please leave us any questions you might have in the chat. We'll try to get to those. Once the video is over, we will actually stick around for a little bit and maybe answer some of those questions live. With me, I do have Ryan Burgess, who is a senior reactor engineer, one of the bright minds at Palo Verde, and he's going to help us out with answering some of those questions. So we look forward to talking to you guys a little bit right after this video.
Water. It's a precious resource out here in the desert west of Phoenix, Arizona. And it's one of the things that makes this place so unique. But it's not just any water, it's toilet water. Now that I've got your attention, welcome to the Palo Verde Generating Station, the only nuclear power plant in the world not located next to a large source of water. Instead, they use recycled wastewater from several communities in the Phoenix area to help cool their power system in a more sustainable way. Today, we'll learn how nuclear technologies and innovations such as wastewater recycling are helping to produce more environmentally friendly power. They've the External Affairs and Communications Leader here at Palo Verde. Welcome.
Thank you. So the energy here is just electric. What exactly is it that you do here?
Yeah, it's a great place to work. We make power and lots of it. As a matter of fact, Palo Verde produces more energy than any power plant of any kind in the country. And the great part is it's all carbon free. There are no emissions here. So Palo Verde produces energy actually for 4 million people across the Southwest in the states like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Southern California. We have 7 owners, and we're operated by Arizona Public Service.
And you said that's all emissions free. How is that possible?
The way that it's possible is most power plants produce heat, and then they transfer that heat to drive a turbine. So you have power plants like a coal-fired power plant or a natural gas-fired power plant, oil or wood burning, right? They do it a little different than us, but the premise remains the same. We all make heat, and then we boil water. Once we boil water, that water flashes to steam. The steam then drives a turbine, and the turbine spins like a pinwheel. When that turbine spins, it drives a generator. Around that generator is a magnetic field. That magnetic field interacts with copper wires, and we get electricity.
All right, so Corey, can you explain to us how nuclear power is different?
Yes, I can. It's really about uranium. So one little pellet of uranium has about the same power in it as a ton of coal, 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas, or 3 barrels of oil. In each reactor in the United States, there are millions of these little pellets. And those pellets are so powerful, but they're very energy dense. So in a small footprint, we can generate tons of electricity, and it's all emissions free. And another thing that makes Palo Verde really cool, special, and unique is that we actually take recycled, treated wastewater from cities near Phoenix. They clean it up there, they send it to us, we clean it up again, and we use it in our cooling loop here at Palo Verde. And once we're done cooling, we send that to evaporation ponds. And once we send it to the ponds, we return the water to the environment. So you can kind of think of us as your friendly neighborhood cloud maker.
Wow, well, that is a powerful little pellet and a lot of great innovative thinking on the sustainability front. We've been getting a lot of questions from students, and we would love to hear more. So please keep sending those into @DiscoveryEd using the hashtag #NavigatingNuclearVFT. And one of the popular questions we're getting is, how does nuclear energy work? And I'm glad they're asking, because I have that question too. So let's check in with Ryan Burgess, a nuclear engineer, to find out now.
In the US, there are 99 operating nuclear power plants, which generate 20% of our electrical energy needs. But get this, they also generate more than half, or roughly 56%, of our carbon-free energy.
Hi, welcome to the Palo Verde Energy Education Center. We're here today to talk about nuclear power. We have this awesome model which shows how our plant works. At our plant, we harness the power of the atom in order to create electricity. Atoms are the building blocks of all life. They make up this table, they make up your chairs, they even make up you and me. In fission, we split the atom by bombarding it with neutrons. When the neutron is absorbed into the uranium-235 nucleus, it breaks into two pieces, as well as releasing immense amounts of heat and additional neutrons. These neutrons continue on to bombard additional nuclei in order to create a chain reaction. At Palo Verde, we harness this chain reaction in our pressurized water reactor. That's what this model is. It's a 3-loop system with a primary system, a secondary system, and a condensing or cooling loop. The primary system starts with the nuclear reactor. That's where fission occurs. We pass water through the reactor where it heats up, but it isn't allowed to boil because it's under immense pressure. After the water goes through the reactor, we put it through the steam generator. In the steam generator, it transfers its heat to the secondary side. In the secondary side, we allow the water to boil in order to create high-quality steam. This steam then travels to the turbine, where it spins the turbine and in turn spins the electrical generator. This is where we create our electricity. Excess steam is sent to the condenser, where it's cooled back to a liquid and sent back to the steam generator in order to begin the secondary side process again. Excess heat is then transferred through our cooling loop to the cooling tower. Here, the heat transfers to water and creates steam that's sent to the atmosphere. This is where you might see a steam plume coming from a nuclear power plant. This steam disperses into the atmosphere and is returned to the environment. And that's how nuclear power works.
Nuclear energy through fission can release 1,000,000 times more energy per atom than a chemical reaction or the burning of a fossil fuel.
So I asked some students to come down to the Energy Education Center with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to measure radiation and what radiation is. First, I'm going to have them introduce themselves.
My name is Aubrey. My name is Lincoln. And I'm Ben.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming down. And for teachers, if you want to learn more about measuring radiation, you can visit navigatingnuclear.com and look for the digital lesson plan, Measuring Radiation. So guys, what I have here is a couple of Geiger counters. So these are a way that we can detect ionizing radiation. And what happens is, this is called a pancake probe. So when a particle of radiation comes in, it'll go through here, and then the detector will detect it, and it sends an electrical signal to our Geiger counter. And so every time we hear it click, that's called a count per minute. So we'll be able to tell how radioactive things are. So I have some different items. We're gonna go ahead and test them. We have a plate. This is called a lantern mantle, and it maybe is a little bit before your guys' time, but you used to have a lantern where you'd put fuel in it, and then it would basically burn this, and it'd be really bright, kind of like a flashlight. We have pyrite or fool's gold. We have this rock, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but if you notice, there's some yellow streaks in it, and those are kind of interesting. We'll get to it. Then we have a banana, and we have some table salt. It's a salt substitute with iodine in it. Do you guys want to flip on the detectors and see if we can figure out which are radioactive?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
So what do you guys, as our captain speaks, what do you guys think is some predictions for which one of these are going to be radioactive?
Maybe salt because it's shining, just like the fool's gold.
Okay, salt and fool's gold.
The fool's gold?
Okay, we got 2 for the fool's gold, and what about you?
The plate.
You think the plate? All right, well, let's go ahead and see. Do you want to go ahead and get started and test the plate? So you just flip it over and put it right on there, and we'll see if it clicks. So yeah, that's really radioactive. Does that surprise either of you guys?
Yeah.
So she got it right. So this is called Fiesta ware, and back in like the 60s and 70s, they would actually use uranium, kind of similar to what we use in our fuel, to make dye because it comes out this really nice orange color. So it's totally safe to eat off of. They stopped doing it, but I could take this home and eat my snacks off of it and I'd be totally fine. So do you want to go ahead and test the lantern mantle? So yeah, that one's also pretty radioactive. Turns out there's thorium in those, and that's what helps it shine really bright. And that's a naturally occurring isotope as well. So you can see in some common household things, it's a little surprising there'd be some radiation. Let's move on to the rocks. So you guys both thought the fool's gold would be radioactive, right? Let's go ahead and find out. Do you want to test it first, Lincoln? So not so much on that one. You would think that it's really shiny and radioactive, but sometimes that doesn't always correlate to the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and test this one? It's not as exciting, but it might be radioactive. So yeah, that one definitely picks up some counts, and the reason is that rock was mined in Arizona, and it's naturally occurring, and what that yellow streak is, that's actually the uranium. So when we mine that, we can mine it and then enrich it and use that as our reactor fuel. So do you want to bring it home with the food items? Test the banana and the salt?
Okay.
So nothing there. How about the salt?
Yeah, this one will probably.
No, nothing there either. So I kind of brought those, and it's a little bit of a trick question, but both those are actually radioactive. So the banana has potassium in it, which is a naturally occurring isotope that's radioactive. My favorite thing about bananas is, as a nuclear nerd, I can calculate my banana equivalent dose. So how much dose I get in the year at the plant, I can convert it to the number of bananas I would need to eat, and it's way more bananas than I would ever want to eat. And then the salt substitute, that actually has iodine in it, so it's also radioactive, but just both of them are too low energy to detect with these kind of detectors. So let's go ahead and turn these off. While you guys are here, do you guys have any questions for me about my job as a reactor engineer or how the power plant works?
Do you like your job?
Yeah, so I think nuclear is really cool, and I love being a reactor engineer. Every day I go to work with the core and do physics, which I really liked when I was in school, and I really think nuclear is the coolest way to make electricity, so I find it really interesting and I love what I do.
Where do I find the most radiation?
You can get radiation from a lot of different sources. As we just looked at, there's some kind of surprising things that are radioactive, right? So a big one would just be rocks in the ground, right? So this occurs naturally and it's all over the earth. So you could get it from just the ground, from earth, natural minerals. The other big one is actually the sun. So the sun is basically a giant fusion reactor and it spits off a lot of radiation. And it turns out the closer you are to the sun, the more radiation you get. So if we're sitting here in Phoenix, we might not have a lot of radiation, but if we got on a plane, we'd actually get more, or like an astronaut in outer space would get even more than us. How about you?
So all this radiation, is it enough to make the power plant explode?
That's a good question. I get that a lot. So no, first of all, the power plant can explode. It's actually designed differently than, say, like a nuclear bomb or something. So a bomb is designed with a different type of fuel that's highly enriched uranium. And it's also designed to give you a lot of energy in a short burst. Whereas the nuclear power plant, we use low enriched uranium, and we design it to run for a long time. We want the core to run for 18 months. So it's kind of long and slow versus a bomb that's, for lack of a better word, pretty explosive. All right, well, do we want to test some other things? Maybe Lincoln's hair is radioactive. Should we try that?
Yeah, I'll test that.
It's kind of disappointing. I thought it would be. All right, well, thanks for coming down, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a little bit more about nuclear power.
The top 3 producers of uranium ore, which account for more than 70% of supply, are Kazakhstan, Canada, and Australia. All nuclear energy facilities place a strong focus on training. In fact, our operators spend 18 months in a classroom or in the simulator before they ever get their license to go in the control room. And once they have that license, the training doesn't stop. They then spend 1 out of every 5 weeks on the job back in training. Now, to put that into perspective, our nuclear operators train more than surgeons or airline pilots. Right now, I'm standing inside of one of our simulators here on site, and this is an electrical control panel. It's just one of many panels here in the simulator that the operators have to know inside and out to precisely control the plant. But it's not just operations that trains. All of us on site spend a lot of time in training, and we get to do some really cool and innovative things. And one of those things is virtual reality.
Look out for that opening in the floor.
Where's that?
To your right.
Oh my gosh, there it is. Yeah, I would definitely be glad to know that was there before I really went to this building for sure.
Yeah, you're about 35 feet up.
35 feet, yeah, that's, you want to know about that kind of drop before you run into it.
So we're going to stay close to the railing, and we're going to be tied off if we're going to stay on this side of the railing.
Right. Oh wow, look, you can even see the mountains out that way.
Sometimes folks come up here for the view.
Well, it's a great one. Wow, Charlotte, that was incredible. I definitely see why that's a useful training tool.
Absolutely. It's an avenue that we use here at the plant to ensure the personnel are safe. We want people to experience the hazards out there in a safe environment, so when they actually step foot in the plant, they are safe and we have no injuries.
Right, like that big hole in the floor, that's something you want to know about before you step out into the centrifuge we're looking at here.
Right, absolutely. We have different stations set up here.
Yeah, I see. Could you tell me more about those?
Right, we recognize that not everyone can do virtual reality. People get motion sickness, they maybe wear glasses.
Right.
So we have stations set up so people can practice their personal protective equipment donning and doffing. Over here we have scaffolding set up so they can practice recognizing, is it built correctly? Are there any trip hazards while they ascend and descend from the scaffolding? It's another avenue for us to ensure our employees are safe and prepared before they step foot out in the plant, because safety here is our top priority.
Right, so everyone, no matter what their learning style is, whether or not they can do VR, they have a chance to do this training. So you've got VR. What other technologies do you use to help keep people safe?
Well, here at the plant, it's really exciting. We have incorporated the use of drones and robots.
Wow.
And for us, we have 3 pilots that can fly our drones, and we use them to perform our cooling tower inspections and our containment dome inspections.
Oh, wow.
And that's really important for us because, as you know, you've experienced the summer heat.
Yes.
We used to do those by putting people up in lifts, and they would do the visual inspections.
Wow.
This gives us an opportunity to ensure plant safety as well as maintain our personnel safety.
Right. So drones, robots, VR, that sounds like a lot of fun, honestly, working with all this technology. How do you end up in a position like this?
Well, it's quite interesting. I was in the Navy many years ago. I was a nuclear electrician.
Sure.
And after I got out and raised my girls for a few years, I decided it would be great to move back home and work here at the plant. I started out as an operator and went to license class, received my reactor operator license, went over to ops training, trained operators, and now I'm in my current role as emergency preparedness manager.
Wow, well, speaking of preparedness, I think I'm going to do a little more training myself. I want to see what else I can find.
It's really exciting and fun.
Now, one of the questions we hear most often is, how do we handle the used fuel? Well, let's go through the fuel cycle. What you see here is a plastic pellet, but the uranium pellets are about this size, and they're stacked inside of a fuel rod, which makes up a fuel assembly and is then put in a reactor core. These pellets make power for roughly 4.5 years or so, and once they're done making power, we take them out of the reactor and put them in a used fuel pool, which we have here on site. Inside that pool is steel and concrete and a lot of water, and all those things act as a shield for radioactivity. Now, once they've sat in the pool for about 7 years or so, they're cool enough that we can take them out and store them in a dry location right here on site. So we put them inside a canister and put a concrete overpack on the fuel. Then we store them on a pad. Once they're on the pad, you could actually walk up and touch that canister, and the canister wouldn't really be too hot to the touch. Also, there's not really as much used fuel as you might think. Imagine this. If you were to use nuclear power your entire life, about 75 years, the amount of used fuel that you would create would fit in a 12-ounce container, something about the size of a soda can. Managing this fuel is a top priority for our industry. And there's some great research out there that will maximize the value of the fuel and the nuclear energy industry well into the future. Some countries like France reprocess and recycle nuclear fuel, extracting elements still capable of generating energy for use in new fuel. The United States, though, currently does not, but some advanced reactor designs and development would be able to run on recycled fuel.
I'm here with Melody Rodriguez. She's a nuclear policy manager, which means it's her job to educate people all about nuclear energy. So obviously that's a huge topic with a lot to learn. What would you say is the most challenging part about your job?
I think the most challenging part of my job is trying to take a process that's so technical and explain it to everyone in a manner that they understand and appreciate. I spend a lot of my time taking people through tours, much like the one that you went on today, and talking to civic groups and community leaders and teachers and students and even local and federal lawmakers all about nuclear power and what it has to offer.
Well, I hope you're taking Corey and Ryan and Charlotte with you on those tours, because they've been teaching us a lot. They're great teachers, so bring them with you. So we have some student questions that have been sent in, and we want to see more of those questions. So if you have something you want to ask, make sure you send it in to @DiscoveryEd using the hashtag NavigatingNuclearVFT. So we got one here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. They would like to know, what advice would you give to students who might be interested in a career like yours?
I would tell them to never stop learning. When I started my career in nuclear power, I had 4 years of college and then another 3 years of a postgraduate degree, and then they offered me 8 more months to learn about nuclear fission and thermodynamics and how a nuclear power plant operates. And I am so grateful that I took advantage of that opportunity, because it has been incredibly helpful in explaining to people how a nuclear power plant works and all about nuclear power.
Yeah, so never turn down an opportunity to learn something new.
That's right.
Okay, so we have another question. How long does the spent fuel from a nuclear power plant stay radioactive?
We call it used fuel.
Okay, used fuel.
And that used fuel remains radioactive for thousands of years, but it decreases in intensity over time. And much like Corey said earlier, the researchers are finding new ways to recycle the fuel and ensure that we reduce the amount of time that it stays radioactive.
Okay, all right, so we've got one more student question. Why should nuclear energy be part of a sustainable future?
Nuclear power is very reliable and it's carbon-free. So together with other clean sources of energy like solar and like wind, it's a critical component of a diverse clean energy mix. So for our clean energy future, we need to preserve the nuclear plants that are operating now and look to innovate and explore new nuclear technologies like the small modular reactors. Those reactors require less fuel in the core. So because they're smaller, they can actually be moved to places where they're needed pretty quickly, and they operate on a much smaller environmental footprint than other sources of energy.
Oh, all right, so nuclear is still changing and progressing and working to being an even better source of energy in the future. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here with us, Melody. I also want to thank Corey, Ryan, Charlotte, all the students who came out to help us today, and of course the entire staff here at Palo Verde for showing us around. And of course we want to thank you for joining us on this adventure today. If you want to learn more about nuclear power and access some free classroom resources, make sure you check out navigatingnuclear.com.
All right, so we had a lot of good questions in the chat. I really enjoyed some of those. It makes it fun for us because we actually get to share what it is we do and how we do it. And I know Ryan saw some really good questions in there and he was answering some of those. There was one, Ryan, you want to give that answer? What was it?
Yeah, somebody asked,
why don't more cities use nuclear power? And I thought that was a really interesting question. One thing is a lot of cities already use nuclear power. So I know that we think, okay, well, Palo Verde is right next to Phoenix, but we actually sell our power to LA and then all the way to El Paso in Texas. So four states. So a lot of, I mean, just from one nuclear power plant, there's so many cities that get power from us. And then the other thing is, there's about 100 other nuclear power plants in the US, and there's a couple more being built currently. And then also there's a lot of research going in, and it's part of what I studied in school of designs that would be used more in the US. So I think in the future, we're definitely going to see more cities getting nuclear power because it is such a great source of carbon-free electricity. So, you know, why more don't use it right now is probably it takes a long time to build a nuclear power plant. But I think in the future, we're going to see more of those plants being built just because it's such a good source of carbon-free electricity, like we talked about in the video.
That's awesome. Thank you. Good question. Ryan, how does one become a senior reactor engineer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I went to school in Oregon. That's where I'm from. And I went to Oregon State University and I studied what's called nuclear engineering, which is it's just another discipline of engineering, like a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer. But it's focused on nuclear physics. So I took a lot of physics and a lot of math classes, got my engineering degree, and then I came to Palo Verde after school. And I went through a lot of training there. I went through about a year and a half more of training after school. And then I've been doing my job as a reactor engineer for about 7 years. So it's a lot of school, it's a lot of studying. And you know, an engineering degree is definitely one way. We have a lot of people on site that aren't necessarily called reactor engineers, but they've gone through the Navy, the nuclear Navy, or they've done vocational training like electricians and mechanics and stuff like that. So I think in the chat you had said there's about 2,000 people that work at Palo Verde. So you know, there's about 10 reactor engineers, which leaves a lot of other jobs for all sorts of careers at Palo Verde.
Great answer. You know, I did see there was a question in the chat about where is it at? It was about efficiency, and I don't know if you can talk a little bit about efficiency, nuclear efficiency versus solar. The one thing that we know about Palo Verde and nuclear energy and nuclear energy, and we like to pay all our geothermal, all these other ways that we can provide energy without the energy having a carbon effect on the earth, right? And so nuclear energy is one of those sources. And that the question behind it was, you know, how efficient is nuclear energy versus solar energy?
Yeah, I saw that was a great question. In engineering, we always kind of joke we can answer everything with "it depends," and it really kind of depends on what do you mean by efficiency, right? Because efficiency can be energy density, or you can look at like electrical efficiency or thermodynamic efficiency, and those are all things you'll learn as you go through school. So you know, so the great benefit of solar is it's the fuel source is the sun, so it just exists, right? I mean, we have to build the solar panels and the transmission lines, but from that perspective, it's very efficient because the sun shines, right? And the nice thing about solar is it's purely essentially an electrical process, right? The solar panels converting to electrical, and electrical energy. Electricity generation is very efficient, very efficient. Thermal energy, so you know, anytime you're heating up water, you're gonna go through the laws of thermodynamics, and there's efficiency limits there. So it's not as efficient as electrical energy. But I will say that as far as Palo Verde goes, we essentially operate at 100% of what our thermal limit of efficiency can be, which means we're very efficient at taking the fuel source we have, converting it to hot water, converting it to steam, and then spinning that turbine like you saw in the video. So I know that's not like the most direct answer, but it's a great question because it's actually really hard to answer because it really depends on what you mean by efficiency. But I think what I said in the chat stands true. Both are great sources of carbon-free electricity. As somebody that works in electrical power and knows about the electrical grid, I think our best bet is to take all these sources of carbon-free electricity and combine them together into like a efficient strategy, and then make sure that everyone can get electricity from clean energy, whether it's nuclear, solar, wind. You combine all those things together strategically, and you have a great energy grid that's carbon-free.
Great answer. There was a question in here about how does energy from Arizona's power plant get to California, and I can answer this one in a little bit. So the way that power is actually transferred through transmission lines. So all the power lines that you see, a lot of the big ones that you see, they look like big, huge structures, and there's power lines going through those, power going through those. It is going from state to state, it's going from substation to substation, and substations are where we take the power, and then that power is then dropped to certain levels or sent out to your houses, or it's actually stepped up and sent to another location. So when we generate power here at Palo Verde, that power then goes to the other states. And believe it or not, the whole western side of our nation is connected in one grid, so that all of the power plants that work with all of the utilities in the area throughout the western grid all talk to each other to make sure that the right amount of electricity is flowing to where it needs to flow to. That's kind of the easiest answer I can give you based on the time that we have. But a lot of great questions in here. Let's see, what's this question? Oh, what do the formulas mean in your background?
I love that question. There's a lot there. You have to take a screenshot, and then you can take them to your math teacher, and you guys can work through them. I see, oh, it's backwards for me. So right there, that's surface area and volume. There's some trigonomic equations there. There's probably more than we have time for me to go through, but take a screenshot, and then you can get back to us, and you tell us what they mean.
There you go. All right, I think that's about all that we have, Caroline. I don't know if you guys have any other questions or if there are questions that we might have missed.
Well, thank you both so much. This has been so interesting. We also want to extend a very special thank you to the Palo Verde Generating Station, because they are one of our big supporters for Connect2STEM 2021. So thank you for your commitment to STEM education, for your support for our whole program, and for being here today. This was so great. And my number one question was going to ask Ryan about his title and what he did. So that was thank you for answering that. It was very, very impressive. We also want to say congratulations to Layla, who is our t-shirt winner for this session. Yay, thank you for that. We have a little bit of a break before our next session, which is coming up at 1 o'clock, which is going to be art and geometry. But what you can do while you're taking this break and you want to join us, because you're going to be making a project at 1 o'clock. So you will need the following, and I'll put this in the chat also. If you want to grab 5 pieces of paper, any type of paper, a pencil, ruler, scissors, and some markers, because then at 1 o'clock, we are going to be having fun with art in geometry. So I'll put those materials in the chat function also, so you can make sure in case you missed that. So anyway, thank you, gentlemen. It's always a joy and a pleasure to see you. Thank you again for your commitment and all that you're doing for educating children in STEM. And I think we are ready. So we have another message from the Be Kind crew, and hopefully we will see you all at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Learning about STEM is fun. Be sure to check back for more Connect to STEM TV. There's lots more to do. Don't forget you need to register here. Special thanks to our sponsors, Banner Health, APS for their great support. And be sure to follow Connect to STEM on Facebook.